And welcome back to the Spicy Sports Show with Sam Stern and Tom Crane, coming to you live from Portland, Oregon, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's about 4:30 Pacific Time, 7:30 on the East Coast. It's the night before the NFL draft, so you're going to see a lot of great college players finally live out their dream and make it to a league where 1% of people in the entire, or less than that, you're probably looking at about between 4,000 or 5,000 people who have ever played in the National Football League. And so that's pretty intense. It's pretty crazy to think about that. So we're going to go with the expectations and our picks for round number 1. NBA playoff update. You have some teams that have already clinched into the next round. Cleveland, Houston. You have some other teams that are really, really close. Again, it's still good first round. We're going to update that. Another week in baseball. So obviously Tommy has that. The Champions League semifinals are now fixed. So you have the Madrid Classic, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, and Monaco taking on Juventus in the semifinals. Well, after that, we'll sprinkle in some stuff here and there. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of breaking news other than some ESPN personalities being let go, which is kind of insane. Trent Dilfer, Danny Cannell, a couple of those guys are really good, at least in my opinion. That's a bummer. But a lot of it has to do with losing millions of dollars in revenue because no one really watches. No one really has cable anymore. They have online and, the free streaming, you're finally seeing the effect of that, I guess. So, but on top of that, ESPN has lost a lot of its luster. It's not necessarily the greatest, but, and that's why Fox Sports 1's taking over. You have BN Sports. You have so many different sports avenues now. So, that's what's going to happen. And, of course, Marshawn Lynch coming back. I guess that's one of the only other topics we want to talk about. We'll sprinkle that in somewhere, somehow, in the day. But before we get started, of course, Tommy, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing so fine over here, Sam. I'm making some chicken wings. I don't have any waffles, but I'm starting to get a little bit hungry in my belly, so I am cooking up some chicken wings for me and my wife.
That sounds so good. And you had a nice Pittsburgh accent while you did that, too. How you doing? How you doing? Like they always goes down.
Like, how you doing?
How you doing? How you doing? It's like a Pittsburgh accent. But, again, we have so much to talk about, man. NFL draft is tomorrow night. Cleveland has 2 of the first 12 picks. You have a couple other players going in the top 5. Obviously, you have the Jets, I believe, hovering around 6. You have San Francisco at 2. Your team, Chicago Bears. Or not your team, but your rival. Sorry, your rival. Your family's from your family's from Chicago. You're a Packers fan. I don't understand that. That's just how does that work? Like, I don't know. I really don't.
As I told everybody who has asked me that same question, my simple answer is Brett Favre. I started watching football when Brett Favre was in his prime with Green Bay Packers. The Bears weren't that great. So, I sort of connected to them. I bonded with them. Sure. And that's how I became a cheesehead.
That's fine. Okay. Sure. Whatever helps you sleep better at night. Whatever. That's fine.
Okay, Bills fan. Where'd you grow up again? Around the Ravens?
That's okay.
Don't come at me.
If I could, I'm 30 minutes from DC, so my option was more so to be a Redskins fan, and I didn't really like the Redskins, but I tried liking the Ravens. I just am not a big fan of the Ravens. I just for some reason couldn't click with them, and then I just started watching football in middle school, and then I was a Monday Night Football game, and the Bills were on. I think this was when Drew Bledsoe was playing, and so I watched the game. I'm like, I'm going to pick them because I was like, all right, they're my football team from now on. Not realizing how bad they've been, and they still are. Haven't made the playoffs since '99. So at least I'm a loyal fan that's just picked a team and stuck with it through losing and losing. Unlike a team who's won a couple Super Bowls.
It's okay. The Bills will make the playoffs this year. I don't guarantee it.
I know you don't. Here on the Spicy Sports Show with Sam and Tom, we do not guarantee anything. Just like the NFL Draft Board, we do not guarantee. There's no guarantees. So, especially with the Browns with the number 1 pick. So we'll start there. And again, they have 2 of the top 12 picks. The number 1 that you're looking for, number 1 pick, again, Myles Garrett's the overall top prospect. I think that's bar none best prospect. Everyone says he's either going to be a great superstar, or like you mentioned before the podcast started, Tommy, Warren Sapp called him a bust, a guy who only plays 4 plays a game. So that, again, there's not a lot of wiggle room really for the Browns. Is they're again not a team that, since they've come back in the league, have not been great. They've gone through a handful of quarterbacks. And then Mitchell Trubisky, the quarterback out of North Carolina, is the top overall prospect in terms of the quarterback position. I mean, Tommy, what's Cleveland's best bet, or what? I'm not asking you who you think they're going to pick, but for the franchise, for a franchise that has suffered through and through. Obviously, you don't know that being a Packers fan, but again, suffering through and through. Who should they go through? Who should they pick? Is it Myles Garrett, the top overall prospect from Texas A&M, or is it Mitch Trubisky?
Well, for this pick, it's every GM's thing where you have to take the best player in the draft. Best player in the draft right now, unfortunately, I don't agree with this, is Myles Garrett, defensive end from Texas A&M. It's a no-brainer. It's a once in every few years sort of talent, they're calling it. He's elite talent in the front seven, and Garrett is going to be an incredible elite defensive player for years to come. Now, they said that about Jadeveon Clowney as well, and I know I butchered his first name, but they said that about Clowney. He hasn't been elite with J.J. Watt on the Texans' defense. They've been good, but they haven't been the best that they could have been. So, the first pick, they're going to choose Myles Garrett. I don't think they should. Who I think they should choose is Mitch. Mitch is their quarterback. I know they've picked rookie quarterbacks before, including his 20-year first pick was
Johnny Football.
Thank you. I already forgot his name because he's irrelevant.
Basically,
but Mitch has a strong arm. He's got good football sense, especially with his huge arm. Once again, I gotta say that. I think he's the best choice for the Cleveland Browns, but they're probably going to go with Myles.
Yeah, no, I think Myles Garrett's the safe pick, I would think. For the franchise that is picked, horrible picks at quarterback. Of course, most notably Johnny Manziel, drafted in the 2014 draft, and now he's not even in the NFL anymore. Goes to show you the level of incompetency the Cleveland Browns have used in the first round picking quarterbacks. And if you're looking at the picks from 2011 to 2014, none of those players are on the roster for the Browns anymore. First round picks, 2011 to 2014, none of them are on the roster anymore. So they need to hit and hit to the best of their ability. So, I mean, Myles Garrett, I would say, is the top overall prospect. Go with him. Again, as you mentioned, Tommy, he does take off plays, but I think defense wins championships. I think it's been said time and time again, but I think it's a much safer pick than a quarterback that you're going to have to sit at the very least for a year in Trubisky. I'm not saying that, again, if you drafted Trubisky that he couldn't contribute. I just think for the franchise that you're trying to build, somewhat of hope for Cleveland. I think Myles Garrett's a safe bet. Again, there are the risks, like Clowney, as you mentioned, that could potentially, he's a beast in college, but once he gets to the NFL, injuries could potentially creep up. But I would take the risk on defense over drafting a QB that may set the franchise back a little bit. So scrolling down, I mean, you have San Francisco at 2, Chicago at 3, Jacksonville 4, Tennessee 5, New York 6, the LA Chargers now at 7, Carolina at 8, Cincinnati 9, and again the Buffalo Bills rounding out at 10. Any picks in the top 10, Tommy, that would make sense? That you're okay with, that you see on the board, that you're like, yep, if they pick that, they're right on the money?
It's going to be interesting. I did see that at pick number 5, Mitchell Trubisky could be taken by the Cleveland Browns because Tennessee Titans traded from Los Angeles Rams, who then traded to the Cleveland Browns for their 5th pick, it looks like.
Oh, really? I have not seen that. That's awesome.
I am looking at this at Bleacher Report, so if you are wondering where I am seeing this information, there you go. The one that I could potentially see being good is Los Angeles Chargers, Jamal Adams, safety, LSU. The Los Angeles Chargers might consider taking a quarterback at number 7. Philip Rivers is 35 years old. I understand that he might be leaving soon because of his seniority. But LA's new defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, He comes from Jacksonville, and before that, he was on Seattle Seahawks defense. Now, with this in mind, he's thinking about the next new version of Cam Chancellor. And that's what Jamal Adams looks like. He's a hard-hitting, high-quality and coverage safety who can set the tone in the Chargers secondary. And this is a huge boost from what they had last year, which they took Joey Bosa, but he wasn't that great in his freshman year as well. So I'm saying Jamal Adams being a perfect fit for the Los Angeles Chargers at the number 7 pick.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good. I think Hooker's going to fall a lot. Again, he's a top 3 prospect, but he's going to probably fall to the top 10 because of the fact of his injury concerns. So, again, it's not that the Chargers need to build a lot around their defense because their offense is pretty good. Again, Phillip Rivers back again. You still have some weapons that are good, and they're coming back. Melvin Gordon had a bounce back year. Their wide receiver sets, they're okay, but the problem is building defense. And again, Hooker at 7, I would not be mad at that pick. For me, there's 2 that you can look at. Number 1 would be at the 8th spot for Carolina. You're looking at Christian McCaffrey, the All-American out of Stanford. He is overall, I would say, the best prospect for me. I would say, just because of his versatility in today's NFL. You know, he's about 200 pounds, 5'11", can play either position at running back or receiver. So, I mean, if you put him in the slot, he's as dangerous as any. If you put him on the Patriots, it's even worse. But luckily, he will be drafted in top 10, I think. So, having McCaffrey for the Panthers is going to be great because their receiving core outside of Kelvin Benjamin is still working its way back. They lost some players from their Super Bowl team 2 seasons ago, and so now they're rebuilding. So having a player like McCaffrey will give Cam Newton more options. And again, adding him to the backfield is going to be really great, and it's going to make them move the ball, and it's going to create a lot of coverage problems for whoever plays the Panthers on offense. On top of course, Cam Newton being a running quarterback. And the other pick that I'd like, and again, I haven't seen enough to see that Tennessee has traded the pick. But let's say, for example, again, just for Pete's sake here, that they do stick with the number 5 pick, drafting Mike Williams out of Clemson. I would say the number top receiver in this draft. Mariota looks great. If you saw him towards the back half of the season, he did really well, and I think he even beat your Packers, Tommy.
Yes, he did.
So, I mean, he's up and coming, I would say, in terms of his development, and the pieces that they're surrounding him are good. In order to put him over the top, you're going to need a go-to guy. And, of course, Mike Williams, after coming back from a 2015 injury-riddled season where he didn't play, made really great strides with him, along with, of course, Deshaun Watson, leading them to the national championship, being the go-to guy. And you saw why he was a top prospect heading into this season. And again, assuming his injury concerns are very minor, I think that if Tennessee has not traded the pick to Cleveland, that would be the best pick that I would go with. And again, maybe you add O.J. Howard out of Alabama, who's going to be a top 10 pick at the tight end position, which is very rare, but his versatility works perfectly for the NFL today, or Marshawn Lattimore. So for those picks, for me, I would say you're looking at pretty good. So, Tommy, I believe your Green Bay Packers have a pick in the late round. What do they have projected, and do you agree with that pick or no?
I was actually looking at your Buffalo Bills for a second and how they might be taking a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
For the 19th pick, that's not there. Excuse me for a second, everybody.